Hi, Care Pioneers. Welcome back. I just want to tell you that I really see you and I really appreciate you. I know that caregiving is not easy, and let's acknowledge that up front. So, and I know that as a caregiver, along your caregiving journey, you're going to be making some tough decisions, especially when it's time to consider maybe a different level of care for your loved one. And why do I say this? Because as we approach the new year, it really is a perfect time to pause and reflect and ask yourself, is what I'm doing sustainable, both for my loved one and for myself? This is not an easy question to ask because sometimes we're in denial or we don't want to face it, but it is a really important question. So, today I'll share the 5 keys to help you decide when is the time to look at a different level of care for your loved one and when is the time to prepare for that, even though your loved one may not need a different level of care right now. So, in this, I want to say that there's no guilt, there's no judgment. Everybody makes their own decision and everybody weighs those factors differently. There's no right or wrong to this. I know sometimes we feel so guilty, but there really is no one size fits all. So you can't compare. While there may be certain themes, your situation is different and is unique to you. So, what I want to do is just try to clarify and support to help you act with peace of mind before you hit crisis mode. So, here goes. What are the 5 signs to know when it might be time to look at a different level of care or be prepared for a different level of care or act so that you do give your loved one a different level of care? The first sign is the environment and safety for your loved one. So I'm talking about, is your loved one starting to wander? Or are they forgetting to lock doors? Or are they keeping doors opened? Or are they leaving electronics on? Or maybe even the stove, that's a fire hazard. Or maybe the iron or whatever it may be. Are they at increased risk of falling? You've noticed that they're really getting frail or they're really unsteady on their feet. Now, there are things that we can do about this and things that we can do at home, but these are the things to start to ask yourself. Or are they struggling in emergencies? Like if they did fall, would they know what to do? Hopefully, they have something like a life alert on, but that may not necessarily be so, or whatever emergency it might be. Then the other thing about the environment is, do they need some more stimulation, especially if they have dementia? Because the more the brain is not used in dementia, the more those brain cells die faster. So, whether that be Alzheimer's or all the other different kinds of dementia, whether, the more stimulation could be they need physical exercise or they need mental stimulation because sitting alone or staring at the TV isn't enough, again, especially for those with brain changes. But also socially, you know do they need to interact with other people besides yourself or maybe the immediate family members, or if they have a caregiver, that immediate caregiver? I can tell you that even when your loved ones may not have been social or as social in the past. I know from experience because my mom was not that social in the past. She had a couple friends and that was it. But when she got to a facility, the world opened up for her. And actually, she became more alert because there were activities there and people to engage in all day long. And she could choose not to engage with them, but at least that option is there for her. And I'm not advocating for either way because, there are a lot of options between giving all the care yourself, by yourself, and sending someone to a facility. So there is a continuum. And when I talk about a different level of care, I'm talking about that continuum. I'm talking about whether it's you're giving caregiving at home alone, whether you're getting someone in-house to help you with, such as a professional home health aide, whether you are sending them to a daycare program, whether you want some respite care, or whether they're going to go to a facility such as an assisted living or memory care units. And there's all different types of memory care units and levels of memory care units, and then skilled nursing facilities. So it's not one size fits all again, and it may be just adapting at home, but certainly safety and environment is number one. Number two is changes in cognitive function. Are there activities of daily living? Are there daily tasks that they're doing, such as they can't really eat or feed themselves very well anymore, or they forget to eat unless someone is there to remind them, or dressing, they're having real difficulty, or they need full care in dressing, or showering and bathing, they can't do that anymore by themselves, or it's becoming increasingly difficult and a safety hazard. Or toileting. Are they incontinent of bowels? Are they incontinent of bladder? Um, and how frequently? And that can be really difficult, changing them over and over all day long. And changes in mobility. Can they get up? Can they walk? Are they walking with a walker, a cane? Are they in a wheelchair? I know my mom was basically in a wheelchair, and when she wasn't in a wheelchair, she had to be in bed because she was too weak. And I could not move her by myself anymore to change her. The next one is, so we talked, and in cognitive functioning, is there significant changes in their cognitive or mental status? And how significant is the cognitive decline? And how rapidly is it occurring? If Are they becoming aggressive or confused, or they have sundowners, more confused at night? What are you going to do, and how are you going to prepare? I can tell you that these significant changes, please do not wait until there's a crisis. If possible, try to discuss this with your loved ones while you can, and plan before you get overwhelmed. And I can tell you this includes not waiting until something happens and either your loved one goes to the ER or they're admitted to a hospital. I know with my elderly mom, my senior citizen mom, that was what did it. I knew that there was a cognitive decline, but she went to the emergency room because she wasn't feeling well anymore. She was doubled over in pain one day. She just woke up that way. And then she was admitted to the hospital. And then it was really rapid that they were telling me they wanted her out and I needed to find a place for her. And I took off 2 days from work and I spent 2 days investigating. And it was not easy. First it was rehab, and then it was whether she was going to come home and how she was going to come home, or was she going to go to a facility. That had to happen really rapidly. So it's really good to prepare before you get into the situation and not say, that I think that's a year or 2 or 3 away. You really don't know. And even if it's a year or 2 or 3 away, if you can discuss it with your loved ones and, now, that would be a great thing. Number 3 is your well-being and your health. Caregiver burnout is so real. And this is a huge one, no matter what anybody says, because caregiving takes a toll on your physical, mental, emotional, and spiritual health. Physically, are you getting sick more often because it takes a toll on your immune system? Are you fatigued, or are you missing doctor's appointments and not taking care of yourself? Is your nutrition or exercise slipping? Are you not sleeping well because you're anxious? Are you gaining weight or losing weight? Mentally and emotionally? Are you starting to feel resentful or really anxious or worried all the time, or you feel trapped? Are you saying things like, I can't take much more of this, or I'm losing myself? These are all very real things that are in the equation of considering the next level care for your loved one. And I don't want to leave out your spiritual health because a lot of times we do that. Are you starting to feel disconnected from yourself or your higher power? That feeling of isolation and disconnection, either to yourself, to others, or to your higher power, is very real and takes that spiritual aspect, takes a toll on your physical, mental, and emotional health. So don't let that happen. So I'm going to ask you, where are you on the caregiver stress spectrum? Now, I'm going to be going over this in much more detail in another video, but I just want to go over it really quickly here because it's important when we talk about caregiver burnout. There's, depending on who you go to, I'll say there's 4 stages and who you listen to, but they're all about the same. The first is the initial, or what I'll call the warning stage, and you're really motivated, you want to do a good job, you really love your loved one, or maybe, you feel obligated, but you still, want to do a really good job, but you're noticing that your irritability is increasing, you start to neglect your own self-care, and maybe you're starting not to sleep as well. So that's stage number 1. Stage number 2 would be increased anxiety, or what I'll call the control stage, where you've got increased anxiety now and you're trying to control everything and make sure everything goes right and everything's perfect. But that leads you to isolation and just escalates everything. And also, you might be in the denial stage or in denial of what your loved one and what you really need, because you really, like with my mom, I promised her I would never send her to a nursing home. So that guilt was there for me, even though that trying to control and coordinate everything was really becoming overwhelming for me because I had made that promise and I felt guilty and I felt like I wasn't good enough or like I had failed. But that is not the case. When you get the appropriate level of care, it's actually a relationship renewal for you and your loved one, because now you can be the daughter or the partner or, whatever your relationship is, instead of just always worrying caregiving. It makes the relationship actually richer, although the initial stages of making that decision of perhaps not keeping them at home and maybe keeping them at home but with a caregiver can be very difficult for you and for your loved one. But sometimes it's necessary because of all these factors that I've talked about. The third stage is the survival stage, or what I'll call increasing challenges. This is when you really start to become overwhelmed and exhausted, and you start to feel like you're running on fumes. You don't know where to turn first. And then the last stage is the actual burnout stage, where you're just totally fatigued, chronically all the time, chronically anxious, maybe even depressed, and you just feel like you've lost yourself. So before you get to these stages, especially these later stages, you want to recognize yourself where you are and reassess now. And so that you have a plan, whether you or not you act or not right now, you have a plan to give you some peace of mind in some direction so you're not in crisis mode. So we talked about 3 of them already, 3 signs. We talked about number 1, safety and environment. We talked about changes in function or cognitive status, and we talked about your health and well-being and making sure that you do not go to caregiver burnout. And if you're there, that you need to do something about it. So we talked about the stages of caregiver stress, or on the caregiver spectrum or continuum. And now the 4th sign is strained relationships. So is your caregiving straining your relationship with your loved one, or with a partner, or with your kids, or with your siblings, or with your friends, or with all of them, that affects your physical, mental, emotional, and spiritual health. So it's really important. It's hard to caregive when you've got that tension all around you. And like I said, that there are other options, not just sending someone to a nursing home or a skilled nursing facility. And I have talked about that in other videos and other live streams before. So, and the last one is five, is the financial stress. Caregiving, we don't get, for the most part, we don't get a lot of financial assistance with caregiving. I think that will change in the coming years, but not right now. So I'm going to ask, if you feel that it's getting too much for you by yourself at home, can you afford a professional caregiver to come into your home? Can you afford assisted living? Can you afford memory care, or can your loved one afford it? What are the finances going to be like? This is part of preparation and talking about it now before you get to that burnout alarm stage. And again, I talked about those other options. So I want you to know that you're not alone in this. And these decisions are hard, and there might be guilt and frustration and shame and blame and fear and anxiety and all of that around it, both for yourself, your loved ones, and those around you. But you don't have to be alone in making this decision. That's why it's so important to start now. And remember, you're not failing. You're never failing, because you're a caregiver, and you have a heart, and you're caring, and you're also caring for yourself and your loved one, so that you both have the best quality of care, and you're adjusting to make sure that that happens for both of you. you know I've helped caregivers all over the country and all over the world start to evaluate their options, and start to prepare and start to look at this and transition their loved ones and reclaim their lives, and without the guilt, shame, or fear, or tremendous anxiety, because it can be done. So if that's you, I'm here to help you, and all you have to do is schedule a free caregiver empowerment call with you. I have lots of tools to help you evaluate the pros and cons of each, and help you deal with your own feelings and your loved ones and all the family members, and. So you are not alone in this. You can do this. And I also want to say, as part of supporting you, and this is my last call, is join my free masterclass on Thursday, December 12th, 2024 at 12 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. It'll only be 1 hour. And it's online. It's the three caregiver keys. Let me start that over. The three caregiver keys to unlock holiday sanity, where I'm going to be talking about how you can make sure that you have a joyful, easy, memorable, treasured memories with your loved ones and your family members while caregiving. So that's it for today, and I'll see you next time, caregivers. I'm with you, and I appreciate you.